Hey guys, how are you? I know it's been a minute. This entire year I've been saying this same thing about coming back and I've disappeared again, but you have to forgive me. I've had some major life changes and I'm settling in, and so hopefully this time is my return, my official and consistent return. I've missed you guys. Thank you to those of you who've taken the time out on and off to check on me on Instagram and ask if everything is going well with my move, with my life. Thank you so much. I can never repay you. And to those of you, if you're new, just click on the subscribe button before you get into the rest of the video. And to my longtime subscribers, thank you for sticking with me. I know I have not been very consistent this year. Apologies from the deepest part of my heart. So anyways, I am back, and I am back to tell you a little bit about my business. Let me just plug in some disclaimers right off the bat. So my audio will not sound how it usually sounds because I destroyed my iPhone. Until I replace my phone with another iPhone, you will have to bear with the sound from the camera. Apologies. So guys, I am here to speak to you about my loan journey, and two, my impending saving journey. I will share some tips while I'm giving my little story, and especially for Caribbean young people, you might find this relatable. So your girl went to secondary school and A-level, and right off the bat my parents, but my dad especially, said, okay, apply to university, blah blah blah, right? So I did just that. My sister had already gone to university the year prior, and so I decided, okay, I'm going to university. Now, again, I was quite lucky because that is not the path that a lot of St. Lucians take. Because one, they don't have the means to go to university right away. The parents don't have anything to secure their loans with, they don't have collateral. So many young St. Lucians stay home, they work, and then they save, but that would mean that you're going a little later. Most people who go to university, like I did, take a loan for 3 years. I did not have to do that. Praise Jesus. I did not have to do that because my dad committed to paying for my education, and he came through on that commitment, and so I never even considered a loan in the first 2 years or whatever. But then at that point in time, my dad was doing a lot. He was doing a lot. And we saw the need in my final year of university to take a loan for my final year. I took about 40,000 EC dollars for my final year. And I am telling you all my business, and that is about 14,815 US dollars for my final year. So that included my tuition, my little insurance, all of these guild fees and all of that good stuff. And it also included my living expenses. So it included paying for hall for my final year, food, all of that good stuff, recreation, whatever it is. I took 40,000 EC dollars. And the agreement was that I would start paying 6 months, I believe, after I finished my degree. And I was slated to finish my degree in May, June of 2014. So 6 months after that, I was carded to begin paying this loan at about 900 EC dollars or so, and it worked out to about 370 US. So that was the deal. From the moment I began, like from the moment my first semester finished in my final year, I began to experience anxiety because I knew that the job market wasn't very becoming. It wasn't absorbing the number of people that were coming out of school. And I also knew that even if I had a very important skill, and looking at HR practices in St. Lucia, I knew that I would have a challenge finding a job as a social worker because of my age. First, I was doing some little work, but I got some money with the Ministry of Education, I think, in Trinidad. So I did get a job then, but not enough to send home to pay my loan, and I don't think it was time anyways. It wasn't time yet. Then at the 3-month mark, I finally got a job. Took that job. That was my first official job. When it was time for me to start paying the loan, I still wasn't making enough to live a life in Trinidad and rent and take care of myself and pay a loan at 370 US, the equivalent of 370 US, which is about 900 and something EC dollars. So my dad was paying me some payments at that time. Then I ended up having a traumatic situation at work, and I decided I was going to leave that job because it was no longer safe. And because I was leaving my job and I hadn't secured another job in Trinidad and I was paying a rent and all of that good stuff, I decided not to remain in Trinidad, which is when I moved back home in 2015. So I moved back home and I was very, very stressed about moving back home already, because I knew I was going back to a country that was experiencing turbulent economic times. At that point in time, the unemployment was high in St. Lucia. I think unemployment is still high, but it was even worse then. And even the leaders of the nation were giving people the go-ahead to not return home, even if you were bonded for whatever scholarship or whatever money they gave you the go-ahead not to return home, because things were so terrible. That is when my anxiety really started to kick in. I mean, I was anxious when I was leaving school, but my anxiety started to kick in then. And I am somebody who's prone to worry when I'm not leaning on Jesus. So that's why I lean and I hold on to Jesus, y'all. Like, seriously, if I didn't have God in that process, I wouldn't have made it out sane. Went back home and I was unemployed for 8 whole months. 8 whole months. And to make it worse, nobody warns you about going back home after a time period. Nobody warns you that it will take some adjustment. Like living with your parents again, just the relationships you left behind, a lot of them have fizzled out by the time you go back, because years have passed. People have moved on with their lives. I was experiencing all that, like the adjustment and just not having a job. So in that period, I experienced some situational depression, and I never ever in my life, if you had asked me before that time whether I would ever be a candidate for depression, I would tell you hell to the no. And guys, it snuck up on me so sneakily. Like, I didn't even know I was depressed until I was coming out of it. Yes, so that 8-month period, I was not paying my loan, of course. My dad was trying to pay it, but he had his other commitments, so it was not being paid consistently. So the bank began to harass me, and luckily, again, not luckily, like divinely, my loan had been sent to the department that was responsible for bad debt. And luckily, somebody that I knew there called me and she said, okay, your loan just came to my department. Let me tell you how to fix this, blah, 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 blah. And I was so appreciative of that. I am so appreciative of that, because one thing I don't like about the bank that I had my loan with is that they would call you to harass you, but one, they were never available when you called to give them knowledge that you would not be able to pay, or if you called with the hope of getting options to your dilemma. This friend of mine, she told me, okay, so here's what you can do in the meantime. And something that I had never heard about, that was never presented as an option to me, even after I had expressed my inability to pay because of my unemployment to my loans officer, is the moratorium. So a moratorium, and let me give you the tea, because some of you don't know about a moratorium, and some banks have some different policies as to how you can apply for a moratorium and under which conditions. But a moratorium is pretty much requesting a period of not paying your loan. And for some banks that would mean just paying the interest, for some it would mean not paying anything. So that's exactly what I did. I requested a moratorium for 6 months. And within that 6 months I got a job, but I needed that moratorium because I had a backlog of needs by that time. And at the end of my moratorium, I began aggressively paying my loans. I was supposed to pay $900 and something. From then, I began paying $1,000 just to chip away at my loan. And I really wanted to do more, but I realized that alone was a huge chunk from my salary. This experience has influenced my philosophy on loans and just my financial journey in life. And I will leave a blog post that my sister wrote, and we shared a similar philosophy here. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, check out the blog post in the description box and check out the blog. It has good stuff. But pretty much my philosophy is that if I have to take a loan for it, it means that I cannot afford it, and it will cost me less in the long run to delay my gratification and save for this thing instead of taking a loan. Speaking of which, after my big loan, I have taken another small loan which I have managed to pay off. After sharing my philosophy with a few people, I've received some side eyes and some looks like, girl, you're crazy, you need loans to get by in life. I really don't think that you do. I really think that you pay more in the long run. But after getting these side eyes, I began to do some research to see whether anybody was living like that and was successful. And I think Dave Ramsey is his name. He's quite popular in terms of the financial world, and I generally don't gravitate towards these popular personalities, but he shares a similar philosophy about paying off your debt. This video is getting too long, so I will come back a little later with a dedicated saving video, what my plans are in terms of saving, because I think that this is where I want to go next. I have a few tips that I wrote down for you guys. 5 quick tips in terms of how you can begin to organize your life so that you can pay off your debt. My first tip is to trim at the edges, trim off the excess. And for me, that means searching your life, taking stock, and seeing where you can really cut back. I can't say, people think that I spend a lot of money, but I can't say that I was ever somebody that spent exorbitant amounts of money wastefully. But I still found myself trimming at the edges. I found myself, at some points, I found myself cooking home a lot more and trying to save in terms of the amount of money I spent on food outside. On other days, so you really have to evaluate your life and take stock, because at some point as well, because I was doing so much in terms of community involvement, YouTube, and my job, I felt the need and I felt it justifiable to outsource a lot of my needs. So I outsourced food. I made sure that somebody was preparing my food for me, and it was an additional expense, but it gave me a little more free time so that I could accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. So take stock of your life and see what can really go, what can you sacrifice. Number 2, because you're going to be trimming at the edges, it doesn't mean that you have to look like a pauper, you have to act like a pauper. I thrifted a lot when I was in St. Lucia, love it. So a lot of my bum pieces that people think I paid a lot for, I thrifted, or I bought from the flea market. And I still look bum.com, hello, I still look good, thank you very much for your kind cooperation. So if your thing is not even clothes and it's socializing, so let's say you like to hang out with your friends a lot, or you go to the bar very often, or you go to the club very often, it would cost you a lot less to have a hangout at a friend's house and you buy the drinks, because drinks are generally marked up at these establishments, so you'd be paying a lot less. And sometimes it means, you know, just chilling at a free spot. For example, if you live in the Caribbean, you can go to the beach, have a beach lime, have a river lime. If you live in the US, there are parks. So you just have to find alternatives to doing what you like. My third tip is very important, and it's to set a realistic goal. So when I first started working, I was so zealous to pay off this loan and so ambitious in my desire to pay off this loan that I thought I would be able to pay about 1,500 EC. And this was not a realistic goal for me, because I also needed to balance the other areas of my life. For one, I had a backlog of needs. 2, I have many interests. I don't go out much, but I have interests. For example, YouTube, and it requires some form of input in terms of money. So my goal pretty much was not realistic. Take into account all of your necessities, take into account all of the things you require to live a balanced life, pretty much. Number 4, celebrate your progress. I have the tendency to not be able to celebrate until I have achieved the goal. So I wasn't happy with my entire life just because I was not done paying my loan, and I just couldn't see that I was making strides. However, your girl is reformed, and she can now say, out of $40,000, I probably have 14 of these $1,000 for the bank left. So, you know, by this time next year, God willing, your girl should be done paying this loan. The Lord willing. Praise you, Jesus. I know you are willing and able. So yes, so I'm able to celebrate my progress, and I'm able to say, okay Chada, you're doing well, it's okay if you buy this fancy ice cream today. And number 5, be disciplined. That is the overarching tip that I have. Be disciplined. Be able to tell yourself no. You don't have to treat yourself every single day of the week. Certain times you have to balance things out and say, okay, I can't do that because if I do this extra thing, it's going to take a little away from my loan payment. So that's pretty much it. That's a little bit about my story in terms of my loan. I think that's all I wanted to say. Leave your experience with debt below. Let me know if you are on a debt-free journey yourself, a debt-clearing journey. Let me know if you are trying to pay off your loans, if you have student loans, whether you're from the Caribbean or not. I would love to hear your experiences. Let me know whether your bank or your loans officer has been helpful. Let me know. Share with me. Also, don't forget to share the video. I have taken the time and shared all my business with you guys. So please share it with a friend who's probably thinking about taking a loan that they don't need. Or somebody who's been thinking about changing their philosophy on loans and debt. Share my video with them. And I hope that you guys leave your comments down below and that you subscribe. So I'll see you guys later. Also guys, don't be afraid to tell me what you want to see in the comment section. I really need your assistance so that I can remain consistent. I will see you next time with a hair video.